The end of Greek mythology. Greek mythology did not die when its gods fell. It died when we stopped being afraid of them. Part 1. When the gods stopped screaming. The slow death of the sacred. Greek mythology did not end with thunder. It ended with silence. No single sword struck Zeus from Olympus. No divine war erased Athena's wisdom or Apollo's light. Instead, the gods faded the way stars disappear at dawn, not because they are gone, but because something brighter convinces us to stop looking. To speak of the end of Greek mythology is not to describe an extinction event. It is to describe a psychological rupture, the moment when myth ceased to function as truth and became decoration. 1. Myth as a living system, not a storybook. To understand how Greek mythology ended, we must first understand what it was. Greek mythology was not literature. It was not metaphor. It was not entertainment. It was a total operating system for reality. When a storm destroyed a fleet, it was not weather. It was Poseidon's mood. When crops failed, it was not climate. It was Demeter's grief. When madness struck a king, it was not illness. It was Dionysus knocking too loudly on the soul. Mythology explained why suffering exists, why power corrupts, why beauty destroys, why fate laughs at human plans. The gods were not moral teachers. They were mirrors of the universe's indifference. And that is precisely why they became unbearable. 2. The first crack. Philosophy replaces. Fear the end began quietly, with questions. Thales asked what the world was made of. Anaximander suggested forces instead of gods. Heraclitus replaced divine will with logos, order without personality. Plato did something even more dangerous. He domesticated myth. In Plato's Republic, myths are allowed only if they teach obedience. Gods must be morally perfect. Chaos must be censored. The divine must behave. This was the first act of violence against Greek mythology, because Greek gods were never meant to be good. They were meant to be true. Zeus raped. Hera tortured. Athena punished pride. Apollo spread plague. These were not flaws. They were honest reflections of power itself. Once philosophy demanded reason, myth became suspect. Once reason demanded consistency, gods became embarrassing. Once embarrassment replaced terror, the gods were already dying. 3. Rationality as a weapon. By the Hellenistic period, myth survived, but only as symbolism. The Stoics said myths were metaphors for natural laws. The Epicureans said gods existed but did not care. The skeptics laughed. This reinterpretation did not destroy myth immediately. It hollowed it out. A god explained as metaphor is no longer feared. A god explained as allegory cannot punish you. And a god who cannot punish is no longer a god. Greek mythology depended on existential vulnerability. You were small. The universe was alive, and it could notice you at any moment. Rationality offered something seductive. Safety. The price was transcendence. 4. Rome. The gods become bureaucrats. Rome did not kill Greek mythology. It nationalized it. Greek gods were absorbed, renamed, reorganized, and repurposed as state instruments. Zeus became Jupiter, less wild, more administrative. Ares became Mars, less chaotic, more patriotic. Aphrodite became Venus, less dangerous, more idealized. Roman religion demanded order, hierarchy, usefulness. The gods were no longer terrifying forces of cosmic imbalance. They were civil servants of empire. This was myth's second death. Loss of unpredictability. 5. Christianity. The final blow. Christianity did not merely replace Greek mythology. It reframed the universe. Instead of many gods representing conflicting forces, there was one god claiming absolute moral authority. Instead of tragic fate, there was salvation. Instead of cyclical time, there was linear history. Instead of heroic defiance, there was obedience. Greek mythology could coexist with reason. It could survive reinterpretation, but it could not survive moral absolutism. Greek gods were immoral by design. Christian theology required moral perfection. Thus, Greek mythology was recoded as pagan, primitive, demonic, childish, not dangerous. Not true, just wrong. Once myth becomes wrong instead of terrifying, it is finished. And yet, this was not the end. It was only the end of belief. Part 2. When myth became a ghost, the afterlife of Greek mythology. Greek mythology did not vanish. It went underground. When belief dies, obsession often begins. 1. From faith to fascination. In medieval Europe, Greek mythology survived in fragments, dangerous, censored, whispered. By the Renaissance, it returned with a new mask. Art. Michelangelo's bodies were pagan. Botticelli's Venus rose again from the sea. Shakespeare borrowed mythic structures without naming the gods. The gods returned, but as aesthetic objects. This was resurrection without divinity. They were admired, not obeyed, studied, not feared, painted, not prayed to, and something strange happened. The more society claimed the gods were dead, the more they appeared in dreams, art, and literature. 2. Psychology. The gods move inside the mind. Freud did something revolutionary. He turned Greek mythology inward. Oedipus was no longer a cursed king. He became a universal psychological structure. Narcissus was no longer punished by the gods. He became a diagnosis. Carl Jung went further. He declared the gods were archetypes, eternal patterns in the collective unconscious. This was both brilliant and tragic, because while it preserved the gods, it also imprisoned them. A god reduced to psychology can no longer strike lightning. A god explained is a god disarmed. And yet, modern humans began experiencing something paradoxical. They no longer believed in gods, but they lived as if ruled by them. Obsession with power, Zeus. Addiction to beauty, Aphrodite. Fear of aging, Kronos. Madness of excess, Dionysus. The gods had not left, they had simply stopped asking permission. 3. Myth without ritual, a dangerous vacuum. Ancient Greeks had rituals to contain the gods, festivals for Dionysus, temples for Athena, sacrifices for appeasement. Modern society has no containment. We worship success without Hermes, beauty without Aphrodite's warnings, war without Ares' shame, technology without Prometheus's punishment. This is why modern crises feel mythic. Economic collapse feels like divine wrath. Climate change feels like Gaia's revenge. Artificial intelligence feels like forbidden fire. We are living in mythic consequences, without mythic language. And that is far more dangerous. 4. Cinema. The gods rebranded as spectacle Hollywood, resurrected Greek mythology again, but stripped of its terror. Gods became superheroes. Tragedy became entertainment. Fate became a plot twist. In ancient myth, heroes do not win. They endure. In modern adaptations, heroes triumph. They control destiny. This is not Greek mythology. It is its domesticated corpse. A mythology without inevitability is propaganda. 5. The illusion of progress. Modern humans believe they are beyond myth. But when stock markets crash, people look for scapegoats. When pandemics strike, people seek meaning. When empires fall, people narrate destiny. Myth did not end. Myth was denied, and denial made it unconscious. And unconscious myths are the most dangerous of all. Part 3. The Real End, or When Myth Returns as Judgment. Greek mythology will truly end only under one condition, when humanity no longer needs meaning. And that has never happened. 1. The return of fate. Despite all our technology, we are still haunted by fate. Algorithms predict us. Genetics limit us. Climate ignores us. We have rebuilt the Moirai with data. We have rebuilt Chronos with time pressure. We have rebuilt Nemesis with collapse. The names changed. The structure did not. This is why Greek mythology feels strangely modern, because it never promised justice. Only consequence? 2. Why Greek mythology is unkillable. Greek mythology does not offer comfort. It offers clarity. It says, power corrupts gods and humans equally. Beauty destroys those who worship it blindly. Knowledge has a price. Fate laughs last. These truths are uncomfortable. That is why civilizations try to bury them. But every time society collapses, Greek mythology returns, not as religion, but as diagnosis. 3. The final paradox. Greek mythology did not end because it was false. It ended because it was too honest. Modern narratives promise control. Greek myth promised limits. Modern ideology promises salvation. Greek myth promised tragedy. And yet, here we are, surrounded by godlike technologies, terrified of forces we created, naming disasters as if they were alive. The gods are gone, but their shadows are everywhere. 4. What the end really means. The end of Greek mythology is not a historical event. It is a choice to see the universe as manageable, a choice to deny tragedy, a choice to believe we are smarter than fate. History suggests this choice never lasts, because when certainty collapses, when systems fail, when meaning fractures, humans do what they have always done. They tell myths again. Greek mythology ends only when humanity dares to believe it has finally escaped the gods. And that moment, as every myth warns us, is precisely when the gods return.